the topic is, what do you make HaMotzi on? What do you make HaMotzi on? So let's take a look at the original sources in terms of a few Rambams and Gemaras and understand terminology. And then once we understand some terminology, eventually we get to the point in terms of like, is this in, is this out, is this in, is this out? A little bit later. We did this many years. Yeah, this is like
2 years ago.
No, it was longer than that. No,
probably 2 years ago. You were there, so it couldn't have been more than 3. Yeah, 3 years was a long time.
This was a long time for the lifespan of a university student.
Different
yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go. Take a look. So the Mishnah says, "Val pera ta'aretz omer bori priyadama." So on essentially what we call vegetables, chutz min hapat. Because after all, by the way, as we know, we don't always realize it, but pat is essentially made from the ground, right? We take wheat and we take grains, and it's sha'alapat tu omer hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Hainu hakriyon lebirkat hamotzi hu geder pat. Meaning, what is the reason why we say hamotzi? It's because it needs to be pat. It needs to be bread. Question is, what is a pat? Says the Rambam. So exactly what is it? So here we go. Ma'aseh Kedera, says the Rambam. Here we go. You need to take flour from one of the 5 grains. Meaning, if I take, and this is what we do, for example, on Pesach, you will see this. You will see flour not made from chameshet minei dagan, but from quinoa, right? Or you'll see from rice, or potato, or from tapenade, that's the right word? Or spelt.
Spelt is one of them?
No, spelt is from the dagan. Spelt is it's a machlokas, but I think we know that it is, yeah. What else? Tapenade. You have these, like, using kosher Pesach pizza made out of tapenade. So what they do is, Mazidis is tapioca, that's the word. Thank you.
What were you calling it?
Tapenade. What's tapenade?
No. For sure.
That's not a thing.
For sure nothing.
I made that word up?
That's
Okay.
I think so.
Could be. All right. It's fine. I've made up worse things. So, if you...
How do you spell tapenade?
I don't know.
You're asking the right person.
So, it says the Rambam, the definition of flour, so here we go. Bread is flour from one of the 5 grains. Bein levado, bein shavut, dvarim achem. So here we go. Whether this grain is by itself or it's mixing with other things, for example, levivot, so we're talking about some type of, so we call levivot latkes, but right? But he's talking about, was that right? No.
Tapenade is a provincial dish consisting of
Dish.
pureed or finely chopped olives.
That's what it is. I knew that. Tapenade is an olive thing. I should have known that. Yes, I knew that. That's why.
Close enough.
Close enough. Yeah, I did it because I've had it before. You can buy it. Okay. V'chein hadagan shechelko o kachu bishlu b'gdera. Or if you take dagan, if you take these grains and you chop them up and you're cooking it in a dish, like, I'm not sure what this is exactly. Harifat v'geresh hakarmel kitzebehem. We'll see a couple of definitions in a few minutes. And anything like it, which is ma'aseh kedera. So ma'aseh kedera is I'm taking a dish and I'm actually cooking, or I'm using these various grains and some type of other food items, or any tavshil shireh b'chemeshet amidim and kemach ben pat, or if I'm taking these grains and I'm cooking it up. However, b'tchilim avrech alav b'rei minei mizonot. So if I'm making a dish, and I'm using these flour grains, that's not bread. So if I use flour, and I'm taking flour, and I'm making a dish with this flour, that's not bread. Now, it might start off the same way, because I got this flour, but the moment I turn it into a dish, that changes it, because it's not a pot, it's not bread, it's called the dero, it's called the dish. Right? So, for example, pasta, right? Or some type of porridge, all those things, right? Of course, there might be from grains, but they're considered ma'aseh kedera. I'm putting it, I'm cooking it, I'm doing something to it. All those things are going to be mizonot. Now, take a look at source number 3. Amar Rav Sheshet, the Gemara. Hi, chavitza. We'll see this definition in a minute. Af al gav deleit be perurin bekezayit mevarach alav hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Amar Rava, v'hu di'ik aleha torita de nehemiah. So what in the world is this Gemara talking about? Let's take a look at Rashi. And even Rashi won't be that helpful. Says Rashi, this chavitza is a shelnikuk. Not sure what that is. Shemefarim betoch ha'elfas lacham. And then again, Torita de Nehemia is a Tor Mariat Alachem. So what's this referring to? You'll see right now. Mashra Gemara, Shegam Davar Shemikaro Belechem Mamish. Something which originates as bread. Im Kvar Ein Alav Tort Lechem Lo Mavrachin HaMotzi, you make Mezonot. Meaning, if I take something that even though it was bread, but it's transformed, and it's not called Torat Lechem, it loses its status of bread. This will be very important when we talk about bagel chips, or when we talk about they put in salad.
Croutons.
Thank you, croutons. What's their status from a mezonot or a motzi perspective? Is this considered bread, or has it lost what's called Torat Lechem? That's going to be very important. So, what is considered not Torita de Nehemia, which is Shkedei Marak. So if you have those croutons, that's going to be mezonot. If you're going to have noodles, all those things, couscous, all those things are going to be considered to be mezonot. Davar shemitagmen b'ma'at shemen, or if you put oil in it, that's not considered ma'isa gedera. It's considered lechem. An example would be what? Davar shemitagmen b'ma'at shemen lo nechshav ma'isa gedera v'dinur kalachem. L'dugma malawach. A malawach we wash. Everyone knows what malawach is? Malawach we wash over malawach. Really? Did you really? You wash on malawach because malawach is bread. Yeah.
Are you sure? Because it says pancakes.
Pancakes, yeah, you wash on pancakes?
And cereal and squares.
Oh.
I like the pancake translation.
Pancake?
Pancake.
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 When was this from?
So wait, what is he saying here? Davar shemit.
So anything that's the shape of a square.
This was from 2000.
Malawach pancake. Oh.
300.
Okay. How is malawach? How?
Pancakes? You have to wash on pancakes?
No. That's what this editing thing is wrong.
The bottom ones are saying you don't have to.
Right, but the top part said you do. It should have been a. They seem to be the same paragraph, but it's not read properly.
Mistake.
Has to be a mistake. Yeah.
You shouldn't wash them.
But if you just add a little bit of oil, it still is considered bread. But something, that's what he's saying. A little bit of oil. Why? How is malawach made? Anybody know?
I have no idea. All I know is that I never washed on malawach.
People don't wash on malawach?
Nobody washes on pancakes.
No, for sure not pancakes.
Last year we would get it all the time in yeshiva. Nobody ever washed.
You don't. How's it made then? It's not bread. It's not bread.
It's malawach.
It's essentially. Is it a cake?
Very similar to pancakes.
Is it similar to pancake?
Yeah.
Not similar to pita?
It's sweet dough.
It's like in between stage. But I think it's more similar to pancakes.
It's not served and you put then dips on it, like just like bread.
No, I guess it is very like bread. They stick them like inside of it.
What was that?
They popped up and they stick them like inside of it.
Oh,
It's
so
like
it
in
should
between a
be-
pancake.
It's usually really good.
Then it should be, what's it called?
Like in between a pancake and
With the
pizza.
stuff in it.
I never actually ate it, but I've seen
It's
it.
like-
It's basically like
It
Jachnun.
literally
to
has a
describe
pocket
it.
where you fill stuff with it, then it sometimes
Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's considered.
Jachnun's like, it's like
the roll.
dough.
What's Jachnun?
Jachnun is a roll.
It's literally dough in a pot.
No, but Jachnun.
Fried dough. Fried dough.
It's fried?
Rolled up.
It's fried. It's not baked.
Nope.
No, it's fried.
It sounds really good, and then like 2 months
so
into
dead.
yeshiva,
It's like yeah.
It's the
no more.
densest pot.
Okay, so I see here we're going to need to.
Bring the shakshuka.
Oh my god, everything is better than shakshuka.
I always thought malawach was essentially bread, but this. I mean, if you put it in the same category as a pancake, so that's obviously quite
Yeah, there's
different.
no way. Why would you ever? Why would you wash on a pancake?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not even a question. But I thought malawach was a bread. Okay, got it. I'm going to double check that. I was always under the impression. Malawach.
Oh, Malawach. Sorry.
Yeah, malawach.
I would assume so.
You have to ask. I remember, this goes back many years, that Timanim actually replace, on Shabbos, they'll have their challah.
Instead of malach.
No, but they'll also serve the malawach as like for an additional bread type
Yeah, but
thing.
once you
They're gonna
wash
say
it,
they use a malawach.
Yeah, I agree. They're not making another bracha afterwards.
what's just weird is like malach could be washed on. I just don't get why he included it with pancakes.
See, and also pancakes are very different than malawach. Pancakes are totally made as
Yeah.
Just
Right, think about it. They're made with
batter.
it's just batter, right?
even dough.
It's never a dough. Whereas malawach, I'm sure, was much more of a flour-based
Doughy type
doughy
of
item.
thing.
And I guess if you're making a malawach and you're adding so much oil or so much sugar, what else is added to malawach? It's fried, right? I think it's fried.
It's kind of, yeah.
It's not baked.
I think so.
Not big.
I think so.
Right, so that'd be very interesting, by the way. The definition of something which is fried, is that considered bread or not? That's
Both.
At the same time.
no. By the way, bagels are done that. A lot of times, bagels are fried and they're baked.
They're not
What? Boiled.
Then
Not
baked?
fried, yeah. They're boiled.
Oh, they're boiled. Sorry, they're boiled and they're baked.
Probably don't boil any bagels.
In Toronto, they don't boil bagels.
Here it's
Like
like
in New York.
circular bread.
It's just circular bread, right?
New York, they do.
Whereas in New York, if they're boiled, the question is that...
And they're also like double the size.
Yeah, there. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what this author did here, but he just made it a little bit more confusing, not less confusing. But what we're going to have to understand is how much do you have to change the ingredients of this flour in order to no longer call it bread and call it instead of tavshel? Meaning, when is something a pot, when is a tzurata pot, and when does something then get unbreaded, literally, and now turned into a dish? When does that happen? And does it matter what my intent is? I'm Mr. Baker man. Does my intent matter, or manufacturing? If I manufacture pita chips, you're going to tell me these were never made as a pita. They were made. My intention as Mr. whatever the company I'm doing is to always make them into these little small pieces. It's not the same as a pita. As opposed to what some people will do is they'll take actual. This is like a shtick. You take pitas. You put them in an oven. You put like some olive oil on them and some spices. You put them in the oven. You serve them as like pita chips, but you literally took pita that maybe went a little bit stale, right, or not, and you're serving it that way. Is that different? Which was made with the intent of pita versus when you buy ready-made pita chips, they were never intended to be made or sold as pita. They were always intended to be sold as essentially a cracker. So it's also going to be very interesting.
Intended to be made or intended to be sold?
But both. Meaning I made them with the intent to sell this way.
On the bagel chips, it says made from real bagels. So it says.
Okay, like you also like made.
No, but when they do that, weren't they? What was that?
There's a difference though.
With what?
No, because
Made
bagels
from
are
real
like
fruit
legit,
juice.
like fruit juice is like
Not real.
like no, you could like pour fruit juice into anything, but bagel chip you can't throw like a bagel in there. And be
But
like,
this
made
will
from bagels.
this will be matzah shira, right? When you ever see these signs that say, they have them in Sobeys, right? Made with fruit juice, right? Bagels made from fruit juice versus water, is that going to have an impact on their bracha? The idea of mezona bagel, right? Those are all they.
Thing as a Mizona.
What they've done is they've replaced the water with fruit juice. But matzah ashira is the same thing. They make matzah. Instead of using water, they use fruit juice and they make matzah. That's also...
So like how much fruit juice do you need before it turns into not bread?
Well, let's face it. What percent of a fruit juice is really just water? Like 99% of fruit juice is just water.
How much do you have to change?
With a bit of sugar.
How do you have to change the challah before it turns into like a cake, like the chocolate challah? Like how much, like before like that turns into like a babka?
Before it turns into babka, right. But there's a very big difference in a babka and challah.
For what? Neutral.
I think we have to go on a field trip to a bakery. We have to go to...
Go to my zayis.
What?
Go to my zayis.
So, did I just see some Mercedes is starting to bake for Pesach? Did I just see that, or was I dreaming?
No
I think you dreamed.
way.
So
Don't be surprised.
The store next to my Mercedes, they didn't have a sign about Passover?
It's in 4 months.
In Bells, they would start baking matzahs Hanukkah. They worked 12 hours a day,
Just don't go in there with
making shmur matzah.
Do they do it in the base in Big Dutch?
Yeah, I don't know if they...
There's so many floors, they probably would.
I'm sure they do. Okay, let's go on. So the next section is what's called Pata Baba Kisnin. And Pata Baba Kisnin, literally, what's pat is bread, and kis is a pocket. So there's breaded pocket, or pocket bread, I don't know, right? This, you make a Pata Baba Kisnin, you're going to make a mezonatan. So the question is, what is Pata Baba Kisnin? We're going to see different definitions, and the halacha will be that each one is Pata Baba Kisnin. We'll do with pizza later, because that's also going to come up at some point in time. Okay.
What about Kudo has asked about this Mizono pizza?
So here we go. Source 4. Actually, let's just go to the halacha. Just jump to 7. Because it'll save time. Lachmaniot. So bread. Otan shebilatan avesh shekorin olish lechem gemurhum rechel HaMotzi berkat mazon. So these breads, even though there's like this thicker dough, you make HaMotzi on them. V'otan shebilatan rakah v'dakima od shekorim nivlish. This is almost like a cracker. They're very aved, they're very thin and brittle. Mevarach mizonot, and then afterwards you make a bracha me'ein shalosh. It says in Mishnah Berurah.
Is that kind of like flatbread?
Like a cracker, yeah. These are much more crackery.
This bread's not necessarily a cracker.
But that's super
Or
thin,
flatbread.
cracky stuff. You know.
It really has the word bread.
Flatbread. The word flat. By the way, just because it's something called flatbread doesn't mean it's bread. Halachically. Flatbread is mizonot. It's made. It's brittle. It's not made. It's not bread.
Fall under that,
So this is like a flatbread. However, this first thing, which is a very strange thing, says in Mishnah Berurah, what is this? Dinasim rak mikemach umayim kisharapat. This lachmaniyot that the Shulchan Aruch is talking about in Source 7, Mishnah Berurah says this is referring to something which is made only from water and flour. Even if it be thin. Then he says, making a distinction between these other things that are very thin, that are only used for kinuach, like a dessert, as opposed to being eaten as a real substantive meal. So we see here that if a person, and again, there's a, and how much subjectivity is there really? So take a look at this definition, a clearer definition in Gimel. And so maybe we'll end with this for today. So take a look at Tet in the tour. Pat b'kisin hu pat asui kimin kisin umalein sukra. So if a person has dough and it's filled with sugar, now we call that a pastry, right? So it's dough, this exact same dough perhaps that you'd, in theory, could make bread into, but it's filled with sugar or chocolate or something. V'shkedim ve'egozin, right? So again, this is the Sephardic culture, right? You're talking about almonds, you're talking about nuts, right? One thing very special referring to this. If you eat so much of it, you could be kaveh sudo. In such a case, either you wouldn't be full, you'd make HaMotzi, and you'd actually would have to recite a full-fledged birkat hamazon. So this first definition that's found in the Torah is this pocketed, filled with, sugar, filled with something sweet of some sort. And that's exactly what the Rambam says in 10. There's dough that's filled with honey, or oil, or milk, and other things, and even though you're baking it together, and even though it's pot, you still make a mizona, because this is not a meal, this is not your bread. So, the three definitions, if you go to 12, the three things that are pat b'kisnin, and by the way, you tell me, does any of these sound like pizza to you, right? There's always a question to ask people. Batzek mumula, dough filled with the sugaries, right? Filled with, this, what's this Rabbeinu Yonah in the tour? Let me go back for a second. What did Rabbeinu Yonah say? Go to 6.
This is the same as what the Shulchan Aruch says.
For what? That's made with?
No, he calls it the nivlish.
This nivla, this uvlish thing.
Yeah.
No, but that's HaMotzi, no? If it's very thin, it's this, so it's almost like a cracker. This nivlish thing is this cracker. So if it's a batzek mumula, I think is referring to something very, a thin cracker, is considered bavikationing, filled with sugar. No, that's Rav Haigon. I'm not sure. I'm not clear enough. What is this Rabbeinu Yonah in the Torah referring to? What is this batzeg, this dough which is filled? Maybe it's filled with other things. As opposed to sugar, maybe it's filled with like vegetables and stuff. Or shkedim and egozim. Yeah, I guess that's what it's referring to. So if I have dough and it's filled with nuts and it's filled with, that would also be considered mizonot. If it's filled with sugars, it's mizonot. And if it's filled with, if it's a cracker, if it's very brittle, that's also mizonot. So interesting. A pizza doesn't seem to be either one of these. But we'll get there a little bit later. Now, it says go to 16. So again, these are the three definitions again. Pat asuim kimin kisim, that are pocketed, that are filled with dvash or sukar or honey, as we saw. 2, isa shirev ba dvash v'shemen or chalav. Again, that it's in the dough is filled with honey. So again, either you fill it with these things or the dough has it. That's the difference between 1 and 2. Now I remember. Or that it's considered that's very, very, very brittle. All those three things we make a mizonadon. Yeah.
This is the reason you make a mizonadon because it's not, you wouldn't establish this as a meal for yourself.
Exactly, right. But if you would establish it for a meal, then you'd actually have to wash.
Enough of these,
so in theory, if you ate enough of those, but you'd have to have a lot of those.
A meal could be 1.5 of those. That's a lot of sugar and dough and everything.
You think 1.5?
I mean, like they're filling.
Well, full one is very filling.
If you have a 1.5, that could get you to lunch.
It can get you to reach something like those
Batteries.
Battery's about to die.
Really?
You'd still have to have a lot. You know, that's the issue with pasta. When people have tremendous amount of pasta, you have to wash on that.
I've washed before on lasagna.
Because you've had so much of it.
Big pieces of lasagna,
Yeah, but again, also depends. Some lasagna has more filling or less filling in different layers and how many layers. So for all those things, for pata b'knisin, I said if you're going to have that much of it, I'm always worried about a suffix. Just wash have a little bit of bread.
Pasta that's just a regular meal.
So if you have a pasta dish that is noodles, so usually we say mezonot on it. But if you're going to have a tremendous amount of pasta,
You're eating all these things as a meal.
What's a tremendous amount?
well, we do that today, right? Like last night or 2 nights ago, I don't remember anymore. You know, my wife served pasta with fish. So I didn't, but if people have a big bowl full of pasta, that's very filling. Just as filling, like you said, as bread.
But isn't it all just relative at the end of the day?
Either way, if you can be
somewhat subjective, isn't it?
You can be convinced to
And it's called dinner time, right?
Not so much bread.
Yeah.
So what is the amount of how much?
Is it about kovea suda or the amount you're eating? Or
Right.
Like how
You could be
So you need to
It's
have,
like
you're going to
bread.
have, I think you need to have what's called gimel beitzim. You need to have 3
That's not.
eggs worth of, actually it's not, I'd be surprised, actually it's a lot.
it's got to be at least like a bowl of.
So if you have a really, really big bowl of pasta, it's a suffix, and the problem is that so maybe it's better just to wash on bread and eat it with
Yeah,
it.
you need like all.
That's always a problem with pata b'kisin, is how much you really need to eat. Like even a piece of cake, you need to have like a quarter of a cake.
Wait, but how is that not subjective? If you're being kovea suda on it, isn't that make it?
But see, it's not enough just to be kaveh suda on it. No, it's also you have to have a certain amount of it as well.
Right. So like you were talking about like a Danish, you could fill up on that, but like.
So again, it's not a matter of being so. You can also fill up on fruit. Doesn't matter. It's about.
Yeah, but why would you wash with fruit?
Oh, you obviously weren't listening.
No, I was actually dominating.
So, okay. So all we see here, and this is what's going to make this topic so complicated, is, is how much, subjectivity. How much does it matter? I eat a lot. I don't eat a lot. I have a big appetite. I have a small appetite. I like sugar. I don't like sugar. I eat cake for a meal. Right? I'm giving out, right? Now that, Greenberg brought us the Danishes, I'm good till 2 o'clock this afternoon, right? I don't know. So, I think you're right, that's part of the problem, is how much subjectivity is there and how much objectivity is there, and how much does it really matter for pastas, or by the way, if a person loves Cheerios and you eat a tremendous amount, 3 bowls of Cheerios and a big bowls of Cheerios, right? You have to wash for that. So we'll get there. We're not there. He's gonna help us out a little bit in a few more paragraphs. But I think we're just starting this conversation. There's actually a lot to talk about. But I think for now we've kind of set the table. But again, I think we need to expand on this carefully, going through the sources. The next section is Pata B'Kishin Halacha L'Maaseh. So I think people will appreciate that. Okay, enough of the what is it and how is it, but Tachlis, how is it applied? We'll take a look at that in Mirz Hashem on Tuesday.